Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm super excited about this review because it's Star Wars, and I've been waiting for The Last Jedi. 2 years since Force Awakens ended, and anyone who's seen Force Awakens can know why it was a tough wait. And this film finally coming out, this film blew me away. And I'm shocked at, because there's been a big deal about the Rotten Tomatoes audience rating of this being the lowest rated Star Wars film among audiences. I'm like, what? IMDb has high ratings, CineScore has an A, so things are weird. And I've heard people not being super fans of this, but also repeat viewing apparently really helps with this film. Didn't need it. I loved this the first time I watched it, and I really loved this film and where they went, because it is a Star Wars film. First and foremost, this is a Star Wars film, but Rian Johnson, who directed and wrote this, does something very different and infuses himself very well into this film, and I really enjoyed what he did, and it really connected with me. I thought what he tried to do with this film was great. I'm going to do this review a little different because you can tell I love this film, but there's one big chunk of this film that I didn't like, and that was the one thing I didn't like. I'm going to talk about that first and then dig into everything else more in detail, but the main thing that didn't really work for me was honestly Finn, who was one of our main characters from the first film, and his story in this film, every time it came back to him, for the most part, I'm like, well, I don't really care. Can't we just go back? And I felt like his sub-story was pointless. There was some moments that were really cool and interesting, but some of them disappointed a little bit. There's one particular sequence in this film that I did not like, but they set up things in it that were important to the rest of the film that they couldn't just straight up cut this, but I wish they reworked it because I really didn't like this, and it introduced the character and a performance that I really did not like. Benicio del Toro is very hit or miss for me, and him popping up in this film and his character was not a fan of. But the thing is, it did integrate some of the most interesting commentary in this film was part of that scene, and that's dealing with, honestly, war games and profiteering off of war and everything like that, which is an incredibly deep and interesting thing to be bringing up in a Star Wars film, but it was a very interesting thing that they brought up. But I digress. That's the big thing that didn't really work for me, but let's talk about the rest. Rian Johnson does a fantastic job of balancing this story, even though that section of the film I didn't really like. It didn't feel like things dragged. They balanced everything well. We were here for a little bit, we were here for a little bit, and the editing in this film was done so fantastically to infuse and bring these scenes together. It was great. You didn't see a whole lot of PowerPoint transitions. No offense, George Lucas. But this film was very well put together. The pacing was amazing. I never felt bored once, and this is a 2.5-hour movie. Never dragged. And in terms of this film, tonally, a lot of people are making comments about the humor in this film. I thought it fit. I enjoyed the humor, and I'm a fan of porgs. I thought they were cute. I thought they were funny, and they did not ruin this film. Also, all the little critters in this film were very interesting, except for one really creepy one, and I'll let you figure that one out. I'm just going to say this thing was on the island where Luke is, and if you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But this film balances this humor, because I feel like the humor in this film is so character-driven that it fits because it fits in the characters. Poe has a lot of humor because he's sarcastic, he's funny, he's a wise ass, and he's using it to do things. And then you have Luke, who's grumpy old Luke, and makes comments, and I think it really works. But this film is honestly one of the most emotionally resonant Star Wars films I've ever watched. There's scenes that hit so hard, and it's just heartbreaking to watch some of these sequences in this film. Rian Johnson did such an amazing job. I'm such a big fan of his. I loved Looper, and he did a great job with this film. The cinematography by Steve Yedlin. Oh my god. Hands down, best cinematography in any Star Wars film. I'm going to say it. This film was breathtaking. the color palettes, use of red in this film, and honestly, between Rian Johnson directing and cinematography done by Steve Yedlin, this is honestly some of the best action ever put to a Star Wars film. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. This has the best action sequences in any Star Wars film, in my opinion, and how well they're shot. You see everything play out so well. There's one particular fight in this film that is so gorgeous, and you can tell that the cinematography was heavily influenced by old westerns because this looks epic as hell. And gushing about just the framing, the shots, the wide shots, and just seeing everything play out in front of you, so well choreographed, or just breathtakingly gorgeous. There's one shot, I'm just going to say it's a collision. I could just put that shot up on a wall and it would be such beautiful art just by itself. It was gorgeous. I couldn't take it. It's just like my jaw dropped looking at some of the cinematography in this film. Now, Rian Johnson's writing, like I mentioned, that main part in this film that didn't really work for me, but the characters, you have a lot of characters honestly making some dumbass decisions in this film, but they're young and they're learning. And the thing is, that's one of the beautiful themes of this film is learning, and knowing that you're always still a student and you're always still learning. Somebody who works in higher education, lifelong learning. This film has that as a theme, because the thing is, you're always learning things and always learning how to judge people, or even when you're older, there's still things to learn and to understand and come to grips with. And the characters in this film, I loved what they did with Luke Skywalker. I thought he was amazing, and this is one of the most unpredictable films that I watched this year. There's twists and turns I never would have expected, and I love this film for it. It took you to places that you would never expect, and I think that's amazing. You go The Last Jedi, you go Rian Johnson. The dialogue, there's some great dialogue, very powerful dialogue, and there's some very humorous dialogue, and everything built through this, and I'm just building up to the point where I could gush about these performances. Here we go. Daisy Ridley. Love her. She was fantastic in this film. She brought a fire and a passion to this film. Mark Hamill, hands down, best performance of his career in this film. Not just Star Wars, best performance in his career. Live action, I'm not going to argue about his vocal performances because Joker, but his performance in this film was breathtaking, it was powerful, it was meaningful, and he just did an amazing job. John Boyega did a nice job. I think Oscar Isaac got so much more to do in this film, and he was great. Poor Carrie Fisher. She did an amazing job in this film. She was powerful. You really got a sense of who Leia was in this film, and Carrie Fisher did such a great job. I thought Laura Dern as Holdo in this film, I thought she was great. Oh my god. Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. I thought he got to take so many steps forward in this film and do some amazing things and show some great power and physical acting and emotion. And I loved one of my favorite parts of this film, and is any moment where Snoke was on screen, because Supreme Leader Snoke, played by Andy Serkis, was amazing. Andy Serkis showed why he is the king of motion capture, and just his acting in general, the power he brought to this character, because it's like, there's been an awakening. It's just like, let's see a giant hologram sitting in a chair. That was Snoke in the first one. This one, you feel the gravity of this character, and you feel why we should be afraid of him. And everything was so great. And I already mentioned, wasn't the hugest fan of Benicio del Toro, but Maggie Tran, I thought she did a really nice job. Wasn't the hugest fan of her character, Rose. There's moments I really liked her. There's parts where it's like, okay. But honestly, I think she did a really good job. Donald Gleason. I have a love-hate relationship with him in these films because, God, I want to jump through the screen and put my fist through Hux's face. But is that because Donald Gleason's so amazing? I'm starting to lean more towards he does a fantastic job of being just like punchable. And he is so disgusting and smarmy and just everything in this film. The music, John Williams. I thought this was an amazing score. It felt like a new score. It didn't just feel like a rehash of the old Star Wars. I'm not going to say so much about this because it's John Williams. The score was amazing. It really was. And it was so powerful in so many moments. But interesting, there is one of the most powerful moments in this film. Silence. No soundtrack, no score, no nothing. There was complete silence, and it was breathtaking. And you'll know what part I'm talking about when you see the film. But this is one of the best films this year. Really is. And I had so much fun in the theater. It hits so hard emotionally. It makes you laugh. It does everything. And if they would have tweaked some of the story and played it out a little different, this would have been a perfect film for me. But it wasn't. I'm going to give Star Wars: The Last Jedi an A.